Hey there. It is actually 17th of September, but I'm still reviewing books from yesterday, Wednesday the 16th. Two more books to go for this week, both written by Matt Fraction. The first one is Odyssey number 7. Matt Fraction, drawn by Christian Ward, and as you can tell, I'm tired. I just love this cover. Because I love what they're doing with the image logo here. It's his penis. Probably like the best like implementation of a comic book logo in the cover ever. I'm really enjoying it. But aside from the cover, the insides of this book are great too. Some of the best art ever done in Odyssey. I'm just going to show off this splash page here as like just an example of how great the art is in this book, in this issue in particular. As for the story, it is getting more and more into the kind of the vein of Thousand and One Nights. The Arabian Thousand and One Nights. The main kind of device, I guess, in this arc is going to be recursive storytelling. And kind of nested storytelling. Just like 1001 Nights, it's stories within stories within stories that are kind of constantly weaving in and out of each other. And so last issue we were introduced to the guy on the cover, he of Troy, who is kind of the male Hera of Troy. I'm Helen of Troy, my bad. Helen, he has been kind of kidnapped and taken to this place, Quaif, Q''AF, not exactly sure how to pronounce it, where he's kind of being not so much held hostage, but he is away from home. And meanwhile, his queen, Ene, is also kind of in the same place in Quaif, but a different part. And she's being sent on a mission by the princes of Quaif, these guys, to kill a. It's kind of a Moby Dick mission. She's being sent with a crew to kill Poseidon's son Proteus, this guy over here. And so in this issue, she gets a crew. She gets the salty old sea captain, and it's very much like Moby Dick at this little side story, this little pocket story within the story. And what's both confusing and the main kind of mechanic, like narrative device in this book, is the narrator's always changing. The story's always changing. It's one story being told through many, many different narrators. And the transitions are seamless, and it's hard to. You might have to go back, to a page and realize, okay, so what narration box is leading into which narration boxes. But once you get the hang of it, like it takes a few pages to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's an amazing effect as you start realizing that the narrator's changing, and then we're getting a different story, and you're getting that Scheherazade effect of different people telling different stories all to each other. Again, weaving in and out, and you're wondering, okay, so whose story is this now? And eventually we land and we tell that story for a while until somebody in that story starts telling their own story. And it's just this brilliant interplay of storytelling. And again, it takes a few pages to really get used to how this works. But once you do, it flows and it just keeps on going. And it's like a tide. It goes in and out. And you're like, okay, I'm used to this one. And then you crest and you're like, okay, got to prepare for the next story. When is this wave coming up, essentially? And the book is beautiful. Just the layouts and stuff really do help with that transition. And you can tell from the colors, from the layouts, from the narration boxes changing colors, which story is being told and who's telling it and how it's being told and all of that. And it's great. This also allows us to transfer between all these characters. So we go from the princes telling a story to Ene being told a story by the sea captain, and the sea captain is telling a story about he on Troy, um, or rather the narrator, the overall narrator, the kind of the meta narrator, the Matt as narrator, like the author as narrator, tells a story about he, um, and to be honest, the story about he, it's enjoyable. It is kind of a revenge story. It's too late for me to talk. It's almost 1 a.m. Revenge story. Uh, I do have to say there. I have to put out, if anyone, I guess I don't know how many of this, if this is applicable to anyone who watches, um, but I have to, like, just in all good conscience, there's a trigger warning for rape. Near the end of this book, it gets pretty graphic. Um, there is a, if not like heavily implied to actual depiction of rape in this book. Um, and it's treated seriously. It's not a throwaway thing. This book recognizes kind of the trauma, but I still, as a reviewer, I have to say, I have to give that out. I feel it's my responsibility to lend that trigger warning in case anyone who interested in this book, it goes along, and I wouldn't want them to, because it is, like, just reading this book, I felt my heart, drop a bit as I knew what was coming. There's abuse, there's rape. It's tough to read, but it's told very deftly, and there is I don't want to say there's a good payoff to rape, but after that event, the book quickly makes you feel better. It quickly kind of redeems itself. It doesn't stay in that dark place for long, which helps. Like, as reader, I guess it helps you reach the end of the book, because it doesn't end on that dark note. But yeah, just incredibly masterful storytelling, and the way it plays with its inspirations, where you start with the princes on QAF, and then you end with the princes on QAF, and you kind of have this weird temporal thing where one character is watching a story being told by another character, is in one of the stories being told. It's, again, weaving in and out. Just very, very deft storytelling, very cool. Again, fantastic art. By Christian Ward. Just a very easy recommendation for Odyssey. And then the next book by Matt Fraction and illustrated by Chip Zdarsky is, of course, Sex Criminals number 12, which it still remains my favorite ongoing book in comics. And this one, too, has many different moving parts. So we start with a kind of a gender studies lesson, a lesson on linguistics and its relationship to oppression of females, of women. And we get a nice linguistics lesson on the history of, or the etymology of the words normal, abnormal, monster. As this part of the story goes on, a lesson being taught by one of the characters. It goes on to the medical kind of classifications of the clitoris, and kind of the erasure and obscurity of the female orgasm, and kind of how that was, like, and this is all, like, it's not being made up for the book. Like, this is all stuff you can research. It's real medical records. I learned some of this. I took some gender studies courses in school, and in just other courses I took came up. Like, this is actual stuff. It's like you tell this to a person and you are smarter. Like, it's important. And it's true. Like, that's, what's kind of scary is that this seems so kind of out of the ordinary. Like, why are doctors recommending, female genital mutilation? And then it's real. It's not just for dramatic effect. This is real facts. So yeah, kind of get into Bitch Planet territory there. But this book, it's not all that serious. I'm wondering which parts I can show. Yeah, let's let's show this panel, this page here. There's also a giant anime sex monster in this book. So if you thought it was getting a bit too serious with the gender theory, you now have the anime tentacle monster that's chasing John and Susie throughout this book. So yeah, it's still sex criminals. You also get some masturbating henchmen and just great stuff. This book is amazing. You get this weird orgy dream, which I really can't show. I want to show you, but I can't just give it all away. But needless to say, there is a character in this sex orgy dream thing that is made entirely of penises. It is just a giant penis with a penis. There's another guy whose nipples and thumbs are penises, as well as his penis. Yeah, it's still sex criminals. And it's still hilarious. Again, I really can't show you most of this book because there are a lot of phallic objects. But yeah, sex criminals, really funny stuff. And then, of course, the letter column, just the best letter column in comic books. Again, I would purchase the letter column alone. It's just fantastic. And like, I wish I could show more of this book to you, like, in examples of why it works, but it's too many dicks. There are too many dicks in this book for me to properly review. But please, I hope you do take my word on it. It is fantastic, hilarious stuff. If you haven't been reading Sex Criminals from the beginning, I strongly suggest you pick up the first two trades, issue 11 and issue 12 right here. And that is it for this week's comic book reviews. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to, please subscribe. Any comments, questions, anything whatsoever, please leave them down below. Actually, you haven't seen, I've been wearing my Primper shirt this whole time because sex criminals. Anyway, yeah, all that rate, review, comment stuff. Please do that if you're interested. Really makes this all worth it. And thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next week for some more comic book reviews.